And I got great news. Great news for you, my dear Muslim friends who are watching this video. This is a message for my Malay friends in Malaysia that I want you to know that you can become a Christian without going to the government, without going to Sharia court. You don't have to get your ID changed on your card to become a Christian. What you need to do is you need to repent of your sin and trust in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and decide to follow Him, and you become a Christian. It's called being born again. All over the globe, of Muslims wising up to the fact that they've been lied to, and they're coming to know the truth of who Jesus really is. But what they're doing in Malaysia is these Malays are finding out that Islam is false through social media, through even Christians in Malaysia who have the guts to share the gospel with them, share the truth with them, share the love of Christ with them. And Muslims are finding out that Islam can't stand on its own. It falls apart once you start taking apart the lies. But I want to share with you just some of the things that Malays are coming to realize, not just Malays, but Muslims all over the world. They're coming to realize, again, that Islam is false. Now, I've heard this many times from my Muslim friends. In my comment section, they mock the cross of Christ. They mock the idea of Jesus being crucified. They say, you know, how puny your God is, how weak Jesus is to be crucified. Whereas our version of Jesus is the good version of Jesus, where he doesn't get crucified. And then they put the blame on the Apostle Paul. 9 times out of 10, Muslims will say the Apostle Paul changed the gospel. He was the one that made up the crucifixion by death and burial and resurrection, and Jesus was God. It was Paul that made all this stuff up. Or they'll say things like it was Constantine, the emperor, the Roman emperor, the pagan, who merged all of these pagan religions about Jesus being crucified together, dying and rising again. It was a pagan concept, they'll say. Or they'll even say it was the Council of Nicaea that invented the crucifixion and the death and the burial and the resurrection and the deity of Christ. All of these things is what the gospel basically is. They pin all of these things on Paul, the Council of Nicaea, Constantine, later Christians, pagans, all these things. But the truth is, my dear Muslim friends, that according to Islam, we know exactly who is responsible for corrupting the gospel. It's not Paul. It's not Constantine. It's not the Council of Nicaea. It's Allah himself. Yes, Allah is the one who corrupted the gospel. And here's how. The gospel plainly teaches that Jesus died by crucifixion. Now, where do Christians get that idea from? Did they make it up? Did Paul make it up? Did Constantine make it up? No. Allah did this by making it appear. This is Surah 5, 157. It was Allah who made the choice to make it appear as though Jesus was crucified, thus duping a bunch of people in believing that he was crucified when he wasn't. So it was Allah's fault. Allah corrupted the gospel. It was Allah who made this illusion, let's say, and then you'll get your Islamic scholars debating on who actually died on the cross. They'll say Well, it was Judas. Judas was made to look like Jesus, so everybody was confused. And this was Allah doing it all. And then some say, well, one of his disciples just simply volunteered to die in Jesus' place. And then Allah made it appear that that disciple looked like Jesus and he was the actual one that died on the cross. So you see, my dear Muslim friends, it wasn't Paul that invented the crucifixion. The core tenet of the gospel, Jesus dying on the cross for man's sin, was not invented by Paul, was not started by Constantine or the Council of Nicaea. It was Allah himself. Now, I want to ask you a simple question, my dear Muslim friend. If I convinced you of something that I knew was a lie and led you to believe something different, what would you call me? What would you call me if I deliberately deceived you about something? What would you call me? You would call me a liar. And that's exactly what Allah did when he made it appear that Jesus died on the cross. You know, Allah could have done absolutely nothing and Christianity would have never existed. Think about that. If Allah would have done nothing, Christianity as we know it today would have never existed. So it was Allah's fault for starting the world's largest religion that the world has ever seen. And Muslims say that it's a false religion, but it was started by Allah. Now, here's another thing that Muslims need to think about is that how fast Christianity spread. It was like within 20 years that the gospel had spread from Jerusalem, which is where Christianity started. Why? Jesus died by crucifixion at Passover. Now, I want to say this again. Jesus definitely died by crucifixion. There is no historical doubt whatsoever that Jesus of Nazareth was the one who died by crucifixion. So right away, Islam is absolutely false, and it can be disproven by historical facts. Jesus died by crucifixion. We have Tacitus, we have Josephus, and others early attestation that Jesus definitely died by crucifixion. These are witnesses outside of the Bible backing up the truth that Jesus did die by crucifixion. Now, Tacitus and Josephus were enemies of Jesus. They didn't believe. So this was a Jew and a pagan saying that Jesus died by crucifixion. So you see, my dear Muslim friends, right away Islam is false because Jesus definitely died by crucifixion. And Allah is the one who started that according to you. And then Christianity spread within about 20 years. It spread to Africa, Asia, Europe. It just shot out of a cannon. Why? Because, again, it happened in Jerusalem in front of large numbers of people at Passover. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of people in Jerusalem when Jesus was crucified because it was Passover. It was a big pilgrimage from Jews from all over the world. And then Jesus resurrected 3 days later when Passover was still going on, being celebrated. And he appeared to 500 people at one time. We don't know exactly when this was, but within 40 days of after the resurrection, Jesus appeared to 500 people. He appeared to the Apostle Peter. He appeared to his brother James individually. He appeared to Paul individually, 500 people, all of the apostles, different disciples, different apostles. All of these appearances were made by Jesus, who had died by crucifixion and then rose from the dead. This is how Christianity spread so quickly. It wasn't by the sword. It wasn't Jesus and his disciples. It wasn't Jesus's disciples saying, "Hey, join this religion. And you know what's going to happen? You can join my religion and we'll go conquer all of these lands, stealing stuff from people, taking their women, taking people's wives, daughters, and sisters captives for slaves. Either that, or if you die in this jihad, you'll go directly to heaven, where you'll be deflowering virgins for the rest of your life. Or you can capture a bunch of stuff, kill a bunch of people, and rob people and have sex slaves. This is how Islam spread. Gate by the message that Jesus had risen from the dead after crucifixion and that he was the Lord. That's how it spread so quickly. And then it spread so fast that it eventually became the world's largest religion that the world has ever seen. Now, I'm assuming that Allah at any point, since Muslims say he's all powerful, could have stopped this at any time, but he didn't. He allowed it continually to grow. And I ask my dear Muslim friends, you say Jesus was a Muslim, his disciples were a Muslim. Show me a Muslim between the time the church started and the time Muhammad began to preach. In that time frame, show me a Muslim anywhere on the face of the earth that believed what Muhammad believed. Show it to me. Give me a person. Give me one person, my dear Muslim friends, that was a Muslim between the time of the church starting and the time of Muhammad beginning to preach. You can't show me one. It doesn't exist. And keep in mind that it was Allah that corrupted the gospel and not Paul that corrupted the gospel. And why couldn't Allah protect this Injil that all these Muslims are talking about? Now, Muslims say that there was an Injil, a gospel actually, given to Jesus that nobody has ever seen. That there's no trace of whatsoever, no manuscripts, no text, no anything, no codex of this Injil that Allah supposedly gave to Jesus and has never been seen by anybody. Where is this Injil? And since you say that what we have is corrupted, why did Allah allow his message to be corrupted when he promises that his words cannot be corrupted? Now, it doesn't say that the Quran only can never be corrupted. That's not what the verse says. The verse says that his words, which include the Torah, the Injil, and the Psalms, as being from Allah, his words, they don't exist anymore. How could Allah allow his words to simply disappear? And how could the Apostle Paul, of all people, who Muslims blame everything on, how could the Apostle Paul have the power to overtake your Allah and corrupt his pure message and supplant it with his own message that lasted until Muhammad came on the scene? You're telling me, if that's your scenario, you're telling me, my dear Muslim friend, that the Apostle Paul is stronger and more powerful than your Allah, because it was Paul, according to you, who overtook the true Injil and supplanted it with his own message. That's kind of a weak God, if you ask me. My God would never allow that to happen. And even Shabir Ali says that a lot of, I think this is early Islamic scholars, I'm not positive, but I know he talked about, I saw him talking about where scholars say, Muslim scholars will admit that Allah allowed Jesus to appear to his disciples after he supposedly was died by crucifixion to comfort them, to say he was okay. And so this is another deception from Allah. Not only did Allah make up this lie according to Muslim theology, that he made it appear that Jesus was crucified when he really wasn't crucified. This was Allah's fault, not the Apostle Paul, not Constantine, not the Council of Nicaea or pagans or anybody else. It was Allah. And according to Shabir Ali, Allah furthered the lie in making it appear that Jesus appeared after he was dead in his resurrection body to his disciples. So this is Allah all the way corrupting his own gospel. And you expect Christians to believe that Islam is true when it's your own sources that say that it was Allah who started the false narrative of Jesus dying on the cross and his resurrection as well. And you make the claim that the Apostle Paul was strong enough and powerful enough to overtake Allah's own pure Injil, which no one has ever seen. I'm asking my Muslim friends, produce for me the Injil that you claim was given to Jesus. Where is it? Where is the Injil that the Quran confirms in the 7th century? Do you know where it is, my dear Muslim friends? Where is this Injil? Not only where is it, what is it? Well, let me give you a little hint before you go looking for this mysterious Injil. I want you to know that you'll never find it because it's never existed. The gospel that the Quran confirms is the gospel that's in the Bible.